Long ago, nestled between the misty mountains, lay a quiet place known as Hollow Valley. The valley was famous for two things: a fog that never fully lifted, and the lanterns that glowed along its winding paths every single night. No one alive remembered who first lit them. People only knew this one simple truth: as long as the lanterns burned, Hollow Valley was safe. Every evening at dusk, without fail, golden lights would appear. They shone by the river, near the old stone bridge, and along the forest road that snaked through the trees. Travelers who passed through would often remark how the lanterns seemed to guide them, as if placed by unseen hands to show the safest way. But there was a man behind the light. His name was Elior, and he was the lantern keeper. Elior lived a simple life in a small wooden hut at the very edge of the valley, where the fog was at its thickest and the world seemed to fade away. He wasn't important by title or by rank. He was just a quiet man with oil-stained hands and a patient, steady heart. He was the guardian of the valley's glow. His daily ritual was unchanging. Each day, just before sunset, Elior would begin his walk along the valley paths. He moved with a practiced grace, cleaning the soot from each lantern's glass until it sparkled. He would carefully trim the wicks and fill the lamps with fresh oil. And before he lit each one, he would whisper the same quiet promise into the evening air. "Stay bright," he'd say to the flame. "Someone may need you tonight," but Elior was a ghost in his own home. The villagers rarely spoke to him. He was a familiar, yet distant figure. When curious children would point and ask their parents who he was, the answer was always the same: just a lantern keeper. They said it as if that simple title explained everything and nothing, all at once. He was part of the landscape, like the river or the trees, seen but not truly noticed. Then one evening, the wind changed. It wasn't the usual gentle breeze that danced through the valley. This wind swept through with a sharp, restless energy, bending the ancient trees and whipping the fog into a thick, disorienting soup. Familiar paths simply vanished into the swirling gray. "This wind is impatient," Elior murmured to himself, his brow furrowed with concern. At the river's edge, he struck his flint and lit the first lantern. The flame sputtered, flickered wildly for a moment, and then, with a soft hiss, it went out. A chill ran down his spine. He tried again, but the result was the same. Across the valley, a dreadful pattern began. Lanterns that had just been lit began to dim. One by one, their warm lights vanished into the suffocating fog. That night, for the first time in anyone's memory, Hollow Valley went completely dark. Without the lanterns, fear spread through the valley faster than the fog. There was a cold, creeping terror that seized everyone's heart. Villagers became lost on paths they had walked their entire lives. A trip to a neighbor's house became a perilous journey. Whispers seemed to follow those who dared to walk alone, and shadows danced where no shadows should be. The darkness didn't just hide the way, it seemed to breed a new kind of fear. The villagers, desperate and afraid, gathered in the center of the valley. Their voices rose in a chorus of panic. "The lanterns have failed us," one cried out. "The fog is cursed," another shouted. Then a low mutter started in the back of the crowd, growing louder as it spread. "This is the lantern keeper's fault." All eyes turned, searching for someone to blame. Elior stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart heavy, his face a mask of silent sorrow. He said nothing. Later that night, as Elior returned to his dark, cold hut, a voice rose softly from the fog, as smooth and quiet as flowing water. "You cannot keep them lit forever." From the densest part of the mist, a figure emerged. It was ethereal, ancient, and seemed to be woven from the fog itself. It was the fog spirit, an entity as old as the valley. Elior stood his ground, unafraid. He had lived his whole life alongside the mist. The spirit continued, its voice calm and knowing. The lanterns were never meant to burn without end. They were meant to teach. Teach what? Elior asked. His own voice raspy from the cold. "That light must be carried," the spirit replied, its form swirling gently, not depended upon. The spirit explained that the valley had grown complacent, relying on an external light instead of cultivating their own. The lanterns were a crutch, not a solution. The spirit then presented Elior with a choice: to restore the valley, to truly bring back the light. He would have to release the one thing he had protected his entire life, the first flame, the source from which all the lantern flames were born, which he kept safe in a special lantern in his hut. At the first light of dawn, Elior made his decision. He climbed the highest hill overlooking Hollow Valley, the special lantern containing the first flame held carefully in his hands. The wind had died down, and the valley below was a sea of silent, gray fog. He reached the summit, took a deep breath, and opened the lantern door. He didn't light a wick. He simply released the flame. It rose from the lantern, a single, brilliant point of light, and then it split into countless tiny sparks. They drifted down across the valley like a shower of falling stars, each one finding its way through the fog. Each spark found its way to a person, a fearful villager, a lost child, a worried parent. And as each spark touched them, it didn't ignite a candle. It lit a small, warm light within their own hearts. When the sun finally rose, casting its golden rays over the mountains, the lantern post still stood empty and dark. Yet Hollow Valley was brighter than it had ever been. The fear was gone, replaced by a sense of community and courage. People helped one another find their way. Travelers who were once strangers now guided each other. Children, no longer afraid of the dark, seemed to glow with an inner joy, sharing their light with everyone they met. The light was no longer on the path, it was in the people. Elior was never seen again. Some say he became part of the valley. His spirit merged with the wind and the trees. Others say he still walks the fog, a silent guardian. And now when someone in Hollow Valley is lost and suddenly finds their way, or when a moment of courage appears in a time of fear, they whisper to themselves, the Lantern Keeper is near. The story of Elior teaches us a profound lesson. Light is not something to follow forever. It is something we must learn to carry within ourselves and, most importantly, to share with others. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more tales that make you think. Stay bright.